Hello, I'm Carl Jacobs, and in daily life, I'm the co founder and CEO of Apicbase. In this podcast, I'll be looking for answers on how to grow and scale your food service business. I'm talking to numerous experts who've done the same in the past. Welcome to the Food Service Growth Show. In this episode, I talk to the country manager of a company whose vision is closely aligned to that of my own: eliminating food waste for a healthier planet. That's why I'm absolutely thrilled to be talking to Franco Prontera, country manager of Too Good To Go. All right, welcome to the Food Service Growth Show, Franco. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm very happy actually that you are joining the podcast because you're the country manager of Too Good To Go in Belgium. And Too Good To Go is something that is, of course, very near to our own heart because as a CEO of Apicbase, I am, of course, let's say on the other side of food waste, in that sense that we try to help businesses to let's say order in a better way and inventorize in a better way, so they don't buy too much, so they don't have to throw stuff away. Our vision is a healthy planet and a healthy bottom line. So Too Good To Go has nearly the same kind of, let's say, vision. I assume we will have a nice discussion about that a bit later on. But before we go into Too Good To Go and into the growth of food service, can you tell me a little bit who is Franco and where are you coming from?
Yeah, of course. And likewise, I'm also very happy to be here. Let's say we're colleagues in the fight against food waste, where
Exactly.
you're more in the beginning, let's say in the prevention phase, and where we are more towards the end in the reuse and recycle phase. No, but very happy to be here. As said, indeed, I'm Franco. I'm the country manager of Too Good To Go Belgium. Yeah, who am I? I'm a young dad. I have a kid, almost two kids in March. I'm 31 years old, and now I actually started Too Good To Go in Belgium from the beginning 5 years ago, and together with four or five people, we grew the company to today, which in Belgium is 45 people. Yeah, I'm a bit about myself. I've always got the bug of entrepreneurship, but I'm a scientist. I'm a biologist, an ecologist actually. So always had this affinity and passion for the environment. And I was always looking for this crossroads between entrepreneurship, innovation, technology, and sustainability, which I really found in Too Good To Go 5 years ago. So super excited with the team to make as much impact as possible in food industry by preventing and fighting food waste. Yeah.
All right. So as an entrepreneur, I'm very interested always in founder stories. Although you're not, let's say, the founder of Too Good To Go in let's say, the original one, how did it come onto your path? Like, how did they end up with you or you end up with them?
Yeah. That's and thanks for asking, because I also kind of like the story because it's a lot of let's say coincidence. So I had a startup before focused on innovation and technology. Did that for about 3 years. I loved doing it, learned a lot, but failed very hard. We were ahead of the market, and in the end, the product was not what the consumer or the customer wants, and then it stops very quickly. But then I went a bit of soul searching in Asia, as you then do. And on that trip in Myanmar, of all places, I met actually Jonas. Jonas is the founder of Too Good To Go Belgium. So he actually, on that same trip, he got to know the concept from two Danish people. While meeting him and traveling with him in Myanmar, we talked about entrepreneurship, social impact, how we could use entrepreneurship as a force for good. And then a few months later, I got a phone call from him, and he said, "Hey, do you want to come to Ghent, because I got to know this concept Too Good To Go, and I'm going to bring it to Belgium. Do you want to join?" So it started a bit in Myanmar, so to say, and then a few months later, I was sitting here in Ghent in the old library with 4 people just hustling and to get Too Good To Go started here in
Fantastic story, actually. And sometimes you have to travel the world to meet somebody from your own city, yeah? But
Yeah, exactly.
very interesting, actually. So 5 years ago, how old or how long ago did Too Good To Go as the original concept started? And how
Yeah.
fast was it in Belgium?
Yeah, so not that long ago, actually, in 2016, it started actually in Denmark. Actually, the true founder story, let's say, is a story of 5 individuals in 5 countries having a similar idea, but rather than starting 5 competing companies, let's say, they said, "Hey, let's join forces and do it in our own countries." So one app, but we roll it out in our own country: France, UK, Denmark, Norway, and that was 2016. That went well, but went fast, went a bit chaotic, and then about a year later, we got our current CEO, Mette, on board. She had a lot of experience with scaling a marketplace. She had founded Endemundo, a sports app, and sold it. So she was looking for her next venture, and she got eye of Too Good To Go, invested, became CEO, and then she actually prepared the company to scale to other countries. And that happened for the first time again in 2018 with launching the Netherlands and Belgium. So you might say that 7 years ago Too Good To Go started, and about 5 years ago Too Good To Go Belgium started. Yeah.
All right. We've talked a little bit about Too Good To Go in the sense in the founder way, but just for listeners that don't know Too Good To Go, they must have lived on another planet. But can you pitch it in 30 seconds? What is Too Good To Go?
Yeah, of course. So Too Good To Go is a classic marketplace application, or we are a social impact company, but we're most known of our application, a marketplace application where we connect consumers with food businesses to actually save unsold products and meals at the end of the day. So as a consumer, you download the app, it's a free app, and based on your location, you see which food businesses fight against food waste. You pick one: sushi, Italian restaurant, supermarket. You pay in the app, and then at the designated time, most of the time it's the end of the day, the end of the shift, you go there with your own bag and container, and you get a magic bag, a surprise bag, which is a concept that the food business doesn't really know what is left at the end of the day. But as a consumer, you know that if you're ordering let's say a magic bag at sushi, you're gonna get sushi and not a spaghetti bolognese. So this is in let's say in very short how the application works. Yeah.
All right, nice. And honestly, I didn't know the surprise part. How did that came into being? Was this an original concept, or is this something that evolved over time?
No, it's really the original concept, and the philosophy behind it is it's really about fighting food waste. It's not really ordering discounted food custom, because there's apps like Deliveroo and Just Eat for that. But because it's food waste, and let's take the example of the Italian restaurant, they don't really know what's left at the end of the day. But often restaurants, but also bakeries or supermarkets, they have some sort of unsold products. So what the concept of the magic bag is, we determine together a value. Most of the time it's around retail price 15 euros. And it's sold for 1/3 of the price, around 5 euros. The compromise for the consumer is that it's cheaper food, but for the store owner, we make it as easy as possible, and which means that they only have to think about this 15 euros. So it could be a meal of 15 euros. It could be a couple of products, a couple of, let's say, desserts. And the consumer knows the value is going to be 15 euros, and the store owner knows I can put anything what I have unsold for the value of 15 euros in that bag. That's a little bit of the compromise between the two of them.
So you were saying that the bag is then filled with 15 euros worth of value, and then it's sold at 5 euros. Out of curiosity then, what's the business model of Too Good To Go? I mean, in the end, you also have a team, you also have to make a living. How is it, let's say, organized between, let's say, the business, the food business, and Too Good To Go?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and obviously I love to answer that. So we have a classic commission model. So per meal saved, per magic bag, we actually have a commission of around €1, €1.20, something like this. And we don't work with, let's say, there's a very low threshold of commitment. So for independent stores, the bakery around the corner, there's actually not even a contract. So there's a terms and of course the terms and conditions, but there's a very low threshold to just join Save Foods, and if you want to stop, you stop. It's there will never be money, let's say, transferred from the partner to us. We collect the money that the consumer pays, and we just pay out everything minus our commission. So it's really almost a no cure, no pay model. If you don't save anything, you don't earn anything, but you also don't pay anything.
Yeah. And instead of throwing it away, they still make a little bit of money on the things that they were going to throw away anyway. So it's exactly a win-win-win. All right, we've now discovered a little bit about you and about Too Good To Go. It's a very interesting concept. How big is this issue of food waste? Can you give me an overall view of that? And I guess you've done some research on this, or Too Good To Go has done some research on this. So how big is this problem in the world?
Yeah, it's pretty big. It's pretty big. I'm not gonna lie. Actually, it's a huge issue. If you look at the statistics, more than 1/3, close to 40% actually of all the food that is produced worldwide ends up in the bin. That's a lot. That's actually it comes to around 2.5 billion tons food every year. That's very conceptual, of course, but it's around 80 tons per second. If I give keynotes of half an hour, I often say, like, in this keynote, about 144,000 tons of food is wasted during this half an hour. This is a number I know by heart because I tell it a lot, of course, but it's huge, and it has an impact, let's say, on 3 different levels. The most obvious one is economic. It costs a lot of money, that waste, and estimations and calculations with WWF and FAO says it's around 1 trillion euros every year. I think in this day and age we can do a lot more with that kind of money instead of wasting it. Second is the social aspect, right? There's close to 900 million people every day going to bed with hunger. We actually waste more food than there's hunger in the world. So it's really almost an embarrassing problem, right? And the last one, which is a little bit where we focus on and where we also claim to be experts on food waste, is the environmental aspect. So about 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions come from food waste, not food production, but food waste. And let me illustrate that a little bit with an example. If you buy a fish in the supermarket, or let's say in a restaurant, you make a reservation and you say we come with 5, and the menu is prepared by the restaurant owner. And you only come with 4, so 1 fish is actually prepared for nothing and ends up in the bin. That fish had quite a journey before it ended up in that plate, right? It got caught by a boat who went out to sea, who stayed there. The fish is cooled, the fish is transported, maybe even transported from Norway to Belgium. And the restaurant owner had to go to the shop, or maybe the early market, to get the most fresh fish, and also drove home, put on the stove with gas, heated the fish, and that whole journey is actually for nothing if it gets wasted. So there's also an enormous environmental impact of this. So the problem is pretty huge. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, if you're talking about 40% waste, I guess you're also talking about, the banana not being the right shape or the cucumber not being the right shape. Can we pin it down a little bit and move into the restaurant industry, which we are both serving? How is it going there actually? What's the size of the issue within the restaurant industry?
Yeah, for sure. It's a good question. So when I started at Too Good To Go, I didn't really know how much or how big of a problem and how complex this problem was. Because in the end, you don't ask people to eat different. You also don't ask people to eat less. You actually just say like, can you finish your plate? But obviously, it's more complex than that. And if you look at the value chain of food from production to consumption, and let's take the EU value chain of food, you see that in every segment there is actually a percentage of waste occurring, right? In production, obviously, there's veggies and fruit staying on the land. In the storage and the processing, in the transportation. But yes, and then we have food services, retail, and the data here to be found is a little bit outdated, I must admit. It's from 2017, but about 14% of all food waste actually comes in the EU comes from food waste in food services. So that means catering, hotel, restaurants, and this area. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's still that's very much actually, yeah. Especially in a business where you could, potentially manage this much better by inventorizing and ordering in a smart way, so you don't have to throw it away. But of course, we do understand and we do know that this is a big issue in the industry. Can you tell me a little bit about how to fight this food waste? I mean, we are both in the same industry in a sense, and on the other sides, let's say. But can you tell me a little bit about how to let's say different ways of fighting food waste?
Yeah, sure. So you have this scientific model. It's called the hierarchic waste ladder, and that has like different stages on, let's say, the priority you should use or should apply on preventing food waste, and actually waste in any case, but let's say food waste. And that is, first of all, prevention and reducing the potential food waste is the most important thing you can do, right? And that's where you are obviously with the company very active in, is really trying to predict as precise as possible what the consumption would be and adapting then production or purchase behavior. That's really the most important thing you can do, prevention. That's not always possible, of course. So then you come to the reuse. So that's a bit where Too Good To Go comes to play, like these plates, dishes, products that are not sold. How can we bring them back in circulation? How can we revalorize them and hopefully as close to the original value that was possible? That can be in multiple ways. Discounting products, for example, using Too Good To Go as an example. But there are other examples. Then you have recycling. It's a little bit different than reusing in a sense that you actually use maybe parts of a product and you make something new out of it. A classic example in Belgium is using bread leftovers in this kind of bread pudding, which they then sell the other day. So it's kind of recycling these ingredients. And then you have like recovering, and that's most of the time recovering is more in the form of energy. So turning it into biogas is also an option, obviously. And then disposal is really the last thing you should do, and that is more on it gets in landfills. So let's say there's a couple of things in there as well. For example, donation is also in the reuse. So I would say there's prevention, there's reuse and donation, and there's recycling, and then trying to stay as much away from recovery and disposal at the end. Yeah.
Of course. we've now talked about food waste and how big the issue is, and actually, I mean, if you're not yet using something like Too Good To Go, you should be using it after that you've heard this podcast, in my opinion. But what we sometimes notice and experience ourselves as well in the industry is that a lot of people are interested in reducing food waste, but reality strikes and says, okay, but it shouldn't cost me anything, or at least what's in it for me kind of situation on a shorter term. Is there anything you know about this? Like, what's the direct ROI on saving on food waste?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's something that we also get confronted by, right? There's this lack of knowledge, there's this lack of understanding on what these investments can actually mean. It's not only nice to do, it doesn't only give you a good feeling, but it's also really an economic advantage. And there's research, so there's a couple of UN independent research institutes who work on this, on food waste. You have food waste champions. You also have SDG 12.3. So there's a lot of attention to this issue. And there's this company. It's a UK founded company. It's an independent link to the UN, and it's called RAP. Which is it's considered, let's say, the worldwide knowledge center on food waste, and they have done research where they showed that for €1 you invest in prevention of food waste, the ROI is actually €7. So it's really worth the investment, with different systems, with different trainings on multiple ways to improve the bottom line, as you said, but actually also there's a lot of top line growth in there as well, so extra revenue on multiple ways. And we touched Too Good To Go, that's definitely one, but if you make a new product and this product sells well, that it brings in new customers, and these customers may be first timers that never came to your shop or a restaurant, which will stay, and this is all part of this initial investment. Yeah. And another thing which is very interested, and maybe I'm a little bit all over the place, is now also the employee or your team benefit of this is also really not to be underestimated. The feeling that your employees get on contributing to prevention of food waste, and often actually the food they prepared themselves, so all the time and energy they put in, if they see that their employer or their team members help you prevent all that delicious food going to waste, that contributes to employee happiness, employee retention, and we all know how hard it is to find good people nowadays. So that's also something that's very important and which is sometimes hidden in there.
Yeah, it sounds very reasonable, and I honestly very interesting that you mentioned this rep. I didn't know them, so I'm going to look them up after the show. But a question, let me get back a little bit to the entrepreneurial part of Too Good To Go. A question that I'm interested in is okay, so you have a beautiful concept, beautiful app, a lot of people using it, but are there still businesses that you go into, say, hey, we are Too Good To Go, are you interested in using us? And businesses say no. What are the objections that they have, and why, in God's name, would you not want to use an app like Too Good To Go?
I love it how motivated and enthusiastic you are about this. So we definitely share that, but there are still restaurant owners and food business owners, let's say, who are a bit skeptical, or even not joining. And sometimes there's good reasons, right? Sometimes there's really good reasons, in a sense that there are companies who have it figured out. They have solid donation schemes. They fight food waste with giving the meals or the products to employees and team members, and that's super fair. We will never go in competition. Our mission is to fight food waste in any way. If we can give advice, if our system comes to play, if our system is complementary, that's all fine. But I guess, and if I compare the sentiment of the conversations that I'm having over the past 5 years, I must admit that the sentiment, or the opinion about preventing and fighting food waste is already evolved in the positive sense. I think there's a much more, let's say, strong foundation than 5 years ago. That is definitely driven by cost, definitely driven by consumer needs and wants. But still, there are a couple of companies or business owners where we step in every day and that they say, hey, actually, this is not interested for us. And the main reason here are, if you implement a new system, it is often associated with extra work. And nowadays, it's really crunch time in all these food businesses, retail. It is not easy. It is busy. And this let's say this perception of the extra work is just because of a lack of understanding how the system works. So it's also about coming in the right time, with the right timing, day, and just being able to explain it in a few minutes thoroughly when people have the time to listen is important. There's a lot of mouth to mouth, let's say, where we got to know, where people got to know us. Sorry, and that causes that people don't always get the right concept. So they think, ah, yeah, too good to go, it's that thing, right? And they actually don't really know how it works. But then they think they know, so they are already opinionized. And then the cannibalization of their own business. That's an important one. So there's sometimes this perception that if I would join Too Good To Go, and I would have magic bags with a reduction of from 15 to 5 euros, I'm actually cannibalizing on my own customers, because actually they just wait at the end of the day. And then they just order, and then they have it for 5 instead of 15 euros. And that's also something that we need some time to explain, because it's not at all possible. And actually, there's no cannibalization whatsoever. And the reason why is, first of all, you don't know what you're gonna get. So you can wait maybe until the end of the day, but at the Italian restaurant that you really want that spaghetti carbonara, you might as well get cannelloni, you might as well get 5 portions of tiramisu, but you're not gonna get that carbonara for sure. Actually, in most cases, you're not gonna get it. And the second thing is this, and I really like this, it feels a bit counterintuitive, but so if a magic bag is up for saving and during the day you save it, it might as well be that during the day, that restaurant keeper had a fantastic day. A lot of clients come over and they're actually sold out. He has the right to cancel that order and say, hey, you know what? Fantastic news. Today there's no food waste in my place, so better luck next time. So there's also this uncertainty, let's say, whether or not you're gonna get it. And these two things actually prevent the cannibalization. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so there are some objections. Of course, all of them are not true. They just need to join, but maybe we can talk a little bit about the successes. How many meals do you, or let's say surprise bags, do you offer on a day, or how much waste have you prevented over the past 5 years?
Let's look at globally. That's all cool numbers, but I can definitely zoom in on Belgium as well. So since launching in 2016, we've actually saved more than 180 million meals globally. We are now in 15 countries in Europe and in the US and Canada, so 17 countries in total, with close to 200,000 food businesses and 70 million consumers. If you look at Belgium, these numbers are, we will save very soon our 10th million meal. We have a bet actually in the company when it's going to happen. It's in a few weeks, so it's very exciting. We have close to 2 million people in Belgium using the app, and about 6,000 food businesses. So it's quite something. We can calculate. So a magic bag, we actually also call it meals saved internally. That's our KPI. How many meals did we save? And it's scientifically we calculate this to 2.5 kilograms of food. So that means that over 7 years globally, we have saved around 450 tons of food, million tons of food. Yeah.
That's so impressive. Maybe you just touched upon a few data points. I'm also maybe to finalize the conversation a little bit interested in your vision on the role of technology and data in the battle against food waste. Do you have any opinion about that?
Yeah. I think it's absolutely key. Technology, and technology is a means, right? It's a tool to get somewhere, and with the right vision and mission, technology really can be used in such a powerful way as a force for good. And to start, we chose to use an app, a marketplace, because this is very scalable. It's very cheap for all the stakeholders. Technology, it becomes cheaper how big the bigger you become, right? Because it's so scalable and copyable. So I absolutely believe that technology and data are key to fight food waste, because the problem is super complex, and we will need technology and systems that are interconnected. To help fight this. And a recent example is we actually acquired a company a few weeks ago. It's called Coda Bene. They have a tool, Food Memo, which is a tool that is used to scan supermarket products and actually immediately suggest what they could do with this. Obviously, a solution is too good to go, but donation is a solution, discount stickers is a solution, and it's actually to help the food business valorize this food and repurpose it in the best possible way, depending on the expiry date or the type of product or the type of weather. But actually, and now I'm dreaming out loud, Carol, but actually linking systems like the two of us, for example, working both on prevention and reusing, I think is absolutely key. And then we only talk about food services. Imagine if we could even move technology to production and transportation and even consumption with fridges at home. So I think there's a lot of interesting, cool stuff heading our way. It's just us entrepreneurs who need to grasp the opportunity when it comes and find solutions to create value for businesses to prevent wasting food. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. What you're saying in the end is absolutely true. I also think that combining forces is going to help the food industry tremendously. And as you're saying, dreaming out loud, also from our side, there's a lot of interest in seeing how prevention and what's the second word I'm looking for? Prevention and donation or recycling can work together hand in hand. So on that bombshell, I think it's great to thank you very much on joining us today in this podcast. It was very interesting, and I hope also our listeners now who don't know Too Good To Go yet, they do know now. And thank you very much, Franco, and see you next time.
Thanks for having me. It was great. Have a great day, and see you next time.
Bye-bye. What a great conversation with Franco. The main takeaway for me is that to help reduce food waste, there's a great business opportunity for your restaurant. I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. We have many more fantastic guests coming up, so don't forget to like and subscribe. This is it for now. Until next time.